It's not even an academic brainwashing, it's an emotional brainwashing. So it's truly a discipleship. And that's why these kids, they behave like missionaries because they're trained like one. And that's, so whatever their social contagion they want the child to regurgitate, that's their mission. And so anything, whether it be climate changeism, whether it be gun control, abortion, anything, whether you have one opinion on this or not, they're teaching children in schools only one way. And that's how that's that critical consciousness that underpins a lot of the critical race theory. And transgenderism is just one of the ways. It's not a separate thing. It's just one branch, and it's an effective branch because it sexualizes kids, and obviously it destroys them, and that creates very useful angry soldiers.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today, Warriors. I have a great educational video to share with you today. It is about the degradation of the American public school system. Now, it may sound like it is boring, but I am telling you, you are not going to want to miss all these video clips, parent and teacher testimony of what they have personally witnessed going on in the American public school system. Don't forget to smash that like button, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Make sure you select all notifications so you never ever miss a video. That's really important. Stick around to the end. Let's go. All right, so wow. You are going to be mind blown. Some of you already know this with the ideologies that are being taught in the public school system, but I am really going to take a deep dive into what actually happened. So what happened? We had one of the best school systems in the entire world. What turned the corner? What really happened? First of all, let me just say, with former president, a Democrat, Jimmy Carter, and he came up with the idea of a federalized Department of Education. Let's just be honest. I'm not demonizing any man or anybody, okay? The man is not here to defend himself, but things did not go well under that system, under the Department of Education. That's why President Trump said, we got to dismantle it. It needs to go back to the states. And so with that, before the Department of Education, schools were doing better. Kids were reading and writing at grade level. After that, in just a few short years, very shortly thereafter, test scores went down, literacy rates went down. So, and also not only that, let me just be clear, a lot of harmful ideologies have been taught to our children, basically seeing the world through the lens of race and that the world hates you and demonizing white people. All right, we need to understand something. I'm going to say this one time. Hopefully you guys can grab it. A lot of people say, and I'm going to say allegedly, believe that America was headed towards a very strong communist system because it had a way of indoctrinating the children through education. A lot of people can't afford to send their children to private school or stay home from work and homeschool. They're doing everything just to pay the bills or put food on the table. So public school is their only option. And it is honestly, especially in deep blue areas, are indoctrinating the children and making them angry against their country and teaching them, yes, communism. So let's take a watch.
Talking about telling me I'm stripping her rights as a parent, those rights are gone when your child's in the public school system.
Activist teachers like this used to pretend that CRT didn't exist in schools, but now they're the first to tell you how important DEI and CRT are in education.
This is why when we're talking about, let's say, critical race theory in school, people go, they're not teaching critical race theory. It's actually much worse. When a child walks into a K through 12 today, they're not learning about critical race theory. They're learning how to behave and act and think and make decisions like a critical race theorist. And that means that America is oppressive, America is racist, your skin color determines your success, and so on and so forth.
That's why we should call them state schools. These are government-run schools.
Yes.
These are not public schools.
See, this is very important. I hope you guys are grabbing this. They're affecting how people think. And this doesn't just go through the K through 12. It goes into college and university levels as well. That's why you have all of this anti-Semitism and America hatred on university campuses across America. That is what they're teaching. I'm going to say allegedly for everything in this video, okay? But it appears to be what they are teaching, because you see it brewing and bubbling up in the form of Jew hatred. I don't even want to use the word anti-Semitism because it is too politically correct. I would rather say Jew hatred, because at the core of it, that is exactly what it is.
They're run by the government, who is ruled by an authoritarian left-wing party.
That's right. And so that's why when you walk into a public school today, it's a discipleship. It's not even a academic brainwashing. It's an emotional brainwashing. So it's truly a discipleship. And that's why these kids, they behave like missionaries, because they're trained like one. And that's, so whatever their social contagion they want the child to regurgitate, that's their mission. And so anything, whether it be climate changeism, whether it be gun control, abortion, anything, whether you have one opinion on this or not, they're teaching children in schools only one way. And that's how that's that critical consciousness that underpins a lot of the critical race theory. And transgenderism is just one of the ways. It's not a separate thing. It's just one branch, and it's an effective branch because it sexualizes kids, and obviously it destroys them, and that creates very useful angry soldiers.
So he goes on to talk about transgenderism and how it creates very useful angry soldiers. This is beyond education. It's not really it's not education, people. It's indoctrination. It's like a discipleship, discipling them to think only one way. Okay, allegedly they're teaching the children to hate their country, to hate white kids who had nothing to do with what happened in the past. I mean, seriously, people, slavery has been over for more than 160 years. Okay, it's over. I mean, we can't keep going back and regurgitating. Focus on the good white people, good people of any ethnicity. We fought to end it, but except that they don't focus on the fact that we fought to end slavery. They focus on the fact that slavery ever existed and that Black people ever suffered up under it. Yes, it was horrible, diabolical, evil. I admit that. But is it going to get us anywhere by hating our country and hating other people? We all need each other to make it. United we stand, divided we fall. So I'm going to let you hear some more, folks, and then we're going to get into an actual teacher and what she has been discovering.
Have you ever wondered why schools got rid of woodshop? Why they got rid of home ec? Well, it was because in 1983, the geniuses at the Department of Education released this report. And the Department of Education was founded in 1980, which means it only took the federal government 3 years to destroy the education system. The report concluded that American academic performance had been declining for the last 20 years, because doing so allowed them to extend the school day, mandate certain subjects, and control schools with standardized testing. So in response to this pressure, schools abandoned woodshop. They abandoned home ec. But 7 years later, the Sandia report came out, which explained that back in 1960, only rich kids did standardized testing because other kids didn't plan to go to college. But by 1980, poor people and people of all demographics were taking these tests, which made the overall averages look like they were going down. But in reality, nearly every group was doing better across the board. And of course, we already know how things have gone since 1983. And this is why so many families are homeschooling, because 18-year-olds aren't graduating school with any skills at all. Because our students do carpentry, they learn engineering, do STEM projects, and learn to cook. I mean, look what they do in our live graphic design course. Elementary students, just look at these. One student made Sonic, and another a business card. She's a 14-year-old author. Go follow her and check out my private homeschool community and my books on the Bill of Rights, healthy living, and so much more.
Now that I am no longer a teacher, thank God, I can finally say the things that have been on my mind all school year. Okay? As somebody that taught high school and basically educating our new young adults, we should all be scared. Every last one of us should be scared. These kids cannot read. They cannot write. There is no type of comprehension skills, no type of critical thinking. They cannot do anything on their own. They expect everything to be taught to them. Well, I won't even say taught. They expect everything to be given to them. So in my class, we did this thing where I made them write once a week. So they would have some type of assignment where they would have to write at least a paragraph, meaning 5 sentences. 5 sentences. The amount of assignments that I got in with 1 sentence, 2 sentences, the amount of complaints I got where with the whole 5 sentences, that's too much. That's too much. Can we do 3? Can we do 3? Isn't 3 considered a paragraph? Oh, baby. We are in for a wild ride, y'all. Every assignment that I gave them, I kid y'all not. I kid y'all not. Every assignment that I gave them, there was a student that came to, several students that came to my desk and asked me to walk them through the entire assignment, the full whole thing. But genuinely, the truth of the matter is everybody is failing these kids. Everybody. The school board with all these different rules, they're failing these kids. The principals or admin altogether, they're failing these kids, and they're failing the teachers because they're basically telling us that we had to just pass a child along just to keep these graduation numbers up. So everybody, like everybody. Oh, and don't get me started on the parents. Like, I will call and say, hey, your child is failing. And the first thing is, well, why didn't I know about this? Probably because you didn't answer the phone. Probably because you didn't respond to my emails. On top of that, you have 24-hour access to Power School. When I tell y'all it is horrible, like the parents that are here now are not the parents that we had growing up. My parents checked my Power School weekly. And still to this day, my brother just graduated high school a few weeks ago. And still to this day, his grades were checked. Everybody's grades were checked. So unfortunately, it's not these kids' faults. I mean, yeah, they're lazy, but like, what are you supposed to do when all you got to do is tell your mama, well, she failing me? And the school board is going to accommodate that parent. Like, it's crazy, y'all. We should be very scared for our new nurses, our new doctors, our new everybody. These colleges are going to have to start lowering their requirements. They're going to have to start lowering the fact, or just lowering everything, because the way that stuff is going now, the amount of kids that are going to come into these schools and they cannot read, they cannot write, they cannot do anything without AI. We should be scared. We should really be scared.
So that is scary. That is very scary, because I remember some years ago, probably 2012, 2013, the Atlanta public school system, Fulton County, was actually passing kids along who could not read, write, or do math. They were giving them passing grades when they actually had failed, and they got into a lot of trouble with that. I did an old video. I'll try to put the link to that at the end of this video, but this has been going on for a long time. They're told just graduate these children, not actually help them get up to speed where they should be, but that's just pass a failing student. We need to be very afraid. We need to be very concerned. And the way things cost these days, although the current Trump administration appears to be trying to help with that, they're just passing things along. People cannot afford to send their children a lot of times to private school or stay home from work to homeschool them. That's why I bring up how much things cost. They're having trouble with that. And then to add on top of it, private school costs, and they can't like leave their jobs to effectively homeschool. And to do homeschooling and a full-time job is just horrendous. I've tried it. So this is where we are. Not to mention the indoctrination, not to mention the lack of self-control in a lot of these schools. We're going to listen to some more, and then I'll be back.
Only 9% of the entire $268 billion budget of the Department of Education actually goes to K through 12. My name is Christine. I'm an attorney, but I've just been a semester teaching at a public high school, Title I public high school. And let me just tell y'all, there are problems. First and foremost, I loved the kids, but there are major problems within the school system. The administrators, the bureaucracy, the federal funding. And what I mean by that is, in order to get some of this federal funding, you have to check off all of this criteria. And so it's just a game for the administrators and the establishment to try to money grab all of these different federal funds. The funding doesn't go to the teachers that are actually in the classroom. It doesn't really directly impact the kids. A lot of times it goes to programs that are created that, quite frankly, just make the teachers' lives more difficult. But what in the world? Why do we have a Department of Education at a federal level that over 90% of the budget is being spent elsewhere? And by that, I mean not on kindergarten through 12th grade. Let me know what y'all think.
I can tell you right now, someone else is pocketing that money. It's the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions get a lot of money to keep each and every child in the public school system. And a lot of people allegedly think that public schools are indoctrination camps. As you saw in that first video, okay, they are teaching people a certain way of thinking. They're teaching the children a certain way. That's why the young people are coming up with these communist ideologies. They're pro-alphabet mafia. They are against the nuclear family. They are literally, allegedly teaching communism. They are making a person think so much a certain way. I mean, face it, most children spend more time in the public school system than with their parents. The parents are at work. They're rushing to try and get things done and get them in bed so they can get up and go to work to take them to school and then go to work. So it is not a lot of time being spent. A lot of people, if you can, and this is just a suggestion, you may want to think about private Christian schools or homeschooling your children yourself, because right now it looks like a lot of people, a lot of children are being raised to think in a more socialist, communist kind of way of thinking. And it's really like a hatred of America, a hatred of Christianity, hatred of the white man. And these DEI things are just really like teaching you, we should just give you something. And it is not based on merit. You just get it because of your color. And that's why you have so many Black youth and Black young people really acting out, because they are not taking responsibility or self-accountability for how they behave. They expect things to be given to them. And I do want to make a correction. That young lady with the glasses, she's a former teacher, not a current teacher, but she knew what was going on. Okay, and these people in this video are very qualified to give their opinion, or basically as facts of what was actually happening. And I cannot reiterate enough that the Department of Education, in my opinion, needed to be dismantled, because the test scores prove that it did not work. We can argue and say, Trump is dismantling the public school system. Are you going to argue with the actual numbers? I mean, are we going to be emotional? I have this saying, and I have a t-shirt that says facts over feelings, because what is being taught is emotionalism and a manipulation of history. Okay, and the focus of things in our history without giving the full-fledged story. There's a focus on slavery, a focus on Jim Crow, a focus on the injustices of the past, and then America hates you if you're Black and brown is what they're saying. Of course, I don't agree with that at all. I know many successful Black and brown people, so it is not that. Okay, they're literally trying to create this world where there's a lot of anger. A lot of anger. You know, they're trying to really socially manipulate. And you can see it if you really listen to what was said. And if you look at the college campuses, and if you look at the young people and how they think. I just saw a video with Patrick Bet-David, who is the host and founder of Valuetainment, and he has PBD broadcast. He was on Jubilee talking to 20 or so communists. And they were all young people. They were taught that in college. I'm willing to bet it. Clock what I said. They were taught that in college. Okay, then they had Amanda Seals on there, who bragged that she got a master's in African American studies at Columbia University, that same Columbia where you had all of that Jew hatred chaos. It's believed, and a lot of people believe, it is believed that these schools, these universities, starting in kindergarten, are communist training camps. That is the belief, okay? Because when you look at it, there is a hatred of country. And that is common. And then you have a lot of chaos there. You have a lot of protesting that can get violent. You have a lot of taking over of buildings. You have a lot of hatred of Jewish people and Israel. So I wanted to give you guys this because this is actually what's happening, but I also want to give you a little bit more. And I want you to stick with me because this is really, really good. This is educational. We need to know this, warriors, so we can know what to pray for. There is such a push on once, and it's mostly coming, I hate to say it, from the Democrat side of the political aisle. President Trump really, in my opinion, wants us to get away from that indoctrination, to have a love of God, a love of country, and to tell you that your rights come from God, not from government. So let's just listen to a little bit more, and I'll be back.
My name is Nicole Solis, and I am a mother from Rhode Island who was sued by the teachers union simply because I wanted to know what my kindergartner would be learning in school. And here's how this happened. I asked to see the curriculum, and my school told me I had to submit a public records request. The curriculum wasn't posted online, and it wasn't available in a school district. Then I asked them if they were teaching gender theory, and they told me that they don't call children boys and girls, and they embed the values of gender identity into every classroom, including kindergarten, and they didn't want to answer any of my questions further. They told me that they would communicate with me only through public records requests, and that is the only way I could get my questions answered. And when I did submit the public records request that they told me to submit, and I submitted hundreds because I had hundreds of questions, my school board then put my name on the agenda of a public school board meeting and held a public school board meeting to discuss suing me for submitting the request that they told me to submit.
Tonight to speak to you all. I had some concerns from Dr. Lofton's letter. Thought it was a very well written letter and very informative. And my concern is with the resistance to approve another audit. We did an audit last year, right? So the question is, why do we need another audit? But from what I can find, the evidence I can find, I didn't see that audit was specifically looking for the damaging curriculum that is put forth by CRT and DEI. And I'm not really political. My concern is that we need to keep that out of the schools. And so there is, one of the things that kind of concerns me is I found a letter from the Ohio PTA published in 2021 where they specifically talked about that they wholeheartedly support approaches to education that embed diverse perspectives, cultures, and identities into curriculum and discussions, value, truth, facts, science, and research, and comprehensively address racism, white supremacy, culture, discrimination, hate, implicit bias, desperate outcomes for students of color, culturally responsive teaching, trauma-informed care, and professional development. Those are a lot of very clear evidence that they do support CRT and DEI type curriculums. So my question is if we don't have anything to hide, we just did an audit and showed no evidence of CRT and DEI in the curriculum, then what's the hesitancy to do another audit? If we don't have anything to hide, then why not just, let's take a look at it and see if we really don't have anything to hide. Right? When we're talking about the cost of an audit, on the whole scheme of things, it's not going to be that much, right? I know how much I pay in taxes, and I know how many people around the school district and in the county pay in taxes. I doubt that is a very big percentage of the budget that we're talking about. But just to give peace of mind and kind of address all the concerns that we're having here tonight, let's do an audit. Let's find out if it's there. And that's all I have.
All right, there you have it. You had parents. Okay, and then they want to sue this one woman because she's asking about questions and submitting a request that they told her to submit. See, they want to silence the parents. They want to silence the parents. They don't want the parents to have any say-so in their child's education. In certain areas, if your child identifies as the opposite gender, and that is the state of California, if you don't go along with it as a parent, they could take your child away from you. Okay? That is what I'm hearing. And also Minnesota, another blue state, is known as the home of people that have gender dysphoria, that they can go there and get this mutilation of their bodies, even if they're underage, without their parents' consent. So what is really going on here? Are we trying to create a certain society that is of a certain mindset and ideology that could actually destroy itself from within, poisoning the minds of the youth to hate their country, to hate each other, to be distrustful, and also divided? United we stand, divided we fall. See, the communists know this. This is right out of the communist playbook. And I'm only giving you guys this because I feel like it is very important to note that if there is any way possible, you can possibly, homeschool or private school, pray about it, let God lead you. But also we have a president and an administration in place that wants to get rid of these indoctrinations. He said any school that teaches harmful ideologies will not receive federal funding. I am on board with that, because when I heard what was being taught, and you see people, they're very good on the left with giving things a certain name, like critical race theory. It sounds like something very intellectual, so academic, but at the root of it, it's just hate somebody because they're white. Yeah, and look at yourself as the victim. It divides up people between colors. One is the oppressor and the other is the oppressed. And then you have DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. All of it really is saying that based on your gender, color, or orientation, you're more likely to get this position, because we have slots to fill. We have quotas to meet based on gender, ethnicity, and orientation, not merit. And then it also gives people who are Black and brown this mindset, some of them, that things are being given to them and that they deserve it and that they are entitled to it based on the injustices of the past. And you can't talk to me like that because I'm Black and this and that. And then the white people are being demonized. We've got some problems. And I believe certain segments of the white population is going to get sick and tired of this, and they're not going to put up with it any longer. Okay, so this is what has been tried to, this is what is going on, this division of people, the divide and conquer. It wants to take God out, get us angry at each other, and also create a false equality. Equity is like if you have a child who grew up with a two-parent home whose parents could afford a tutor, they may do better. So they're going to try and artificially make the child who grew up in a one-parent home, who worked 3 jobs, who could not afford a tutor, give them a head start to make up for their disadvantages in life. And see, that is wrong, because what you should have done is deal with the reading and lack of reading comprehension and lack of math skills. Deal with that, work with the child to get them where they need to be, rather than artificially place them in a passing situation, whereas they really failed, because they're not going to have the proper skills when they go out into the world. And that is setting them up ultimately for failure. See, the left is very good at naming things a certain way to make you think if you go against it, that must mean that you're racist, right? That must mean that you're racist because you don't agree with diversity, equity, and inclusion. What are you against? Inclusion? That's the name that it is given, but that is not what it produces. It produces a group of people that cannot stand on their own 2 feet, and artificially passing them instead of dealing with their discrepancies, dealing with them and catching them up so that they can actually pass instead of artificially pass. That is better. It's like they want to use a Band-Aid on something that actually needs open heart surgery. Can you imagine the level of evil and where the money actually ends up going? And believe me, there is an agenda being pushed, and it is the old divide and conquer. United we stand, divided we fall. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video. It really helps my video go out farther into YouTube. Comment, share, subscribe to my channel. Select all notifications so you never ever miss a video that I post. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, these United States of America, and march on, warriors.